Hey y'all! Well, the focus of this video is the little GR Research Desktop Mini and something I learned playing with it. But I want to give a little spoiler. Look how awesome these KT120 monoblocks turned out. I'm just floored by how nice these look. These chassis are so cool. I love the way these white transformers look. And of course, KT120 tubes are just awesome looking themselves. And so, enjoy the little spoiler. But back to the little Desktop Mini. When I first built this thing, I noticed that it was very inefficient. And the more I listened to it, it just sounded kind of muddy and just didn't have any life to it. And I tried it with some, KT88 push-pull amps that have a ton of power. And that didn't really bring them to life. I tried a Class D amp. That didn't bring it to life. Tried old school 70s vintage Kenwood solid state amp. That didn't do much better. And so I just was pretty disappointed. And, Danny talked these up so much, and I built them exactly like he showed. I mean, I followed his video to the letter, including like how he put the, the insulation material inside them and gluing them up and, making sure that the dowel was glued with, something besides wood glue and all that kind of stuff. And then since I built these, I've built some other speakers. And I especially love those Swan DIY, the two-way speakers. And I've just finished a pair of the three-ways. They're breaking in. Need a little tweak to the crossovers. We'll get into that in another video. They're still breaking in. I'm not sure that they're better than the two-ways. But I want to give them some time to run in. And we did give these like 8 hours of run time before I really started critically listening to them. So they're broke in. That's not the problem. So anyway, building those Swan speakers, they used a very different insulating material for the inside of the cabinet than I'm used to using. And I found it's the exact same stuff on Amazon that's like a quilt batting material. And it looks like this. And you can see it's not very thick. And it's super thin and airy. I mean, you could like almost, well, you can't see through it, but you can see light through it super easy. And it's, like I said, really lightweight. And those speakers sounded so good. Danny was saying that you need to stuff these pretty full with the insulation. And if you watch the build video, he's using like that fiberglass kind of insulation, and he stuffs them pretty full. He's like just leaving enough room for the magnets in them. And I don't know, that just, thinking about how the speakers sounded and then thinking about how, full of insulation they were, I was like, hey, you know what? I don't like the way they sound. It's not going to hurt anything to open them back up and pull all that fiberglass stuff out of them and put like a thin layer of this and leave a lot of open space inside the box. And so that's what I did. Pulled the woofer out, pulled all that stuff out, got a thin layer of this and lined it. I didn't put much more than like this much in there and let it just kind of wrap around on the sides and the top and the bottom, like kind of like that. Put the woofer back in it, transformed them. They sound so much better now. They've got so much life now that they didn't have before. And I think what was happening was the woofer goes fairly far into the mid-range because it's a two-way speaker and it's a small, cone speaker, that it was getting dampened so much that it just couldn't like resonate or get any sound going inside it. And maybe it's more accurate that way, but they sound so much more alive with just a thin layer of this stuff in them. And so this is, I guess, kind of a retraction, even though the way Danny says to build them, in my opinion, they don't sound good. When you put a thin layer of this inside them instead of that fiberglass stuff, it's like night and day. And what I've been doing on all my DIY speakers is I've been using this stuff along with that aluminum faced butyl rubber stuff to put on the inside of the MDF to help dampen it. And I don't think these speakers need that because these surface areas are so small that you're not really going to get that kind of resonant thing going on like you would in a larger speaker. And it's almost impossible to do now anyway. But then a layer of this stuff on top of that, I think is the ticket. So if you've got a pair of these desktop minis and like me, you're not super happy with them, give this a try. The next thing I want to do is I want to really look at the crossover and see if there's a way to increase the efficiency of them, because they are very inefficient. And for a speaker this small, for my use, I'd love to be able to use these with like my 6BM8 amp, but I can't, and I don't listen at loud sound pressure levels. I mean, and I'm not that far from the speakers. I mean, I'm probably at the most 8 to 10 feet from the speaker, if that. And then I've got a sound pressure level meter that I use for other stuff, but I ran it the other day with normal listening, you know, with my 300B amp, with my RP600Ms, and it hovers around 80 decibels with peaks around 85, 86 at the most. And so I'm not blasting, but to get these at that sound pressure levels takes 3/4 volume on my 300B amp, which is, you know, I think they could do better than that. And so I may look at how the crossovers are wired, and I'd be willing to give up a little bit of, you know, flat frequency response to get the efficiency up. So that's something else we'll look at. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. Like my channel, please subscribe, please like the video. Thanks to you Patreon folks. Also, thanks to you folks that make donations at my site. Super helpful to keep these projects rolling. And until the next video, have a nice day.